something similar but free, like you mentioned, is Minds. What are your thoughts on Minds and like and how do you like that platform?
Oh no, I love Minds. Minds is great, and Minds actually it's still in beta, but they do have a sync feature too, where you can sync your YouTube channel to Minds, and it will go automatically. It's not. I'm not sure if it's paid or unpaid, but yeah, they're working on a feature to get that done. Minds is doing a lot. Ottman, what's his name? Bill Ottman.
Yep.
Is actually making a Facebook competitor. That I think in the next few years you're going to see a lot of people jumping over to Minds. And alternatively to Twitch, Minds is free to get started. So to your point, and it has a lot of the same features that you'll find on Facebook. So I think Minds is going to be. I think Minds and Odyssey in the next few years are going to be contenders for the number one spot.
Yeah, and one thing I really like is that they recognize things that they need to improve on. Like I recently did an interview with Bill talking about the new tokenomics changes as well as some of the stuff that they're working on. One of the big things is they're going to completely revamp the Messenger to make it more akin to the Facebook Messenger, because right now it's still pretty bare bones, but they want to really like flesh it out, allow you to send attachments, all the beautiful things that we want to do but can't do currently. So that's going to be very exciting, and I think they're really building out all of these features to make these things possible. And we also talked about how they have like stories on Minds, which I didn't really notice because I normally use the desktop. But you can post stories now on the mobile version too. So yeah, it's fantastic to see what they're doing. And what are your thoughts around like the recent tokenomics upgrade? Do you have any insights on that?
Not really.
Fair enough. I mean, essentially the big thing was that they burned 75% of their supply to just like massively increase the value of the token. And that took it from like $1 to like $4, but then now it's back down because a lot went back down. And then they made some changes with like, if you now hold tokens on chain, you will earn off-chain tokens just for holding. And then they have liquidity pools for earning as well. So they just brought in a bunch of different ways for you to earn more. And I think they upped the daily reward pool as well to 10,000 Minds tokens per day being rewarded.
Well, that's how we were talking earlier about the behind the scenes of these different platforms. You can, there's two faces of the platform. There's the behind the scenes, the tokenomics and things like that, like you were just saying. And then there's just the front facing to the internet platform. I don't think the average user will ever get past just the social media aspect of it. I think for us being in the space, those things are important to us, and that's what we talk about. But generally speaking, I don't think that's ever going to be a conversation a casual Minds user, casual Twitch user, or whatever is going to have. They're just going to say, I don't like Facebook anymore. I don't like Twitter. What's this over here? And then that's just pretty much how they're going to interact with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And those are kind of like the three main ones that you're using these days: Minds, Odyssey, and Twitch.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Minds is probably my main one, just because it's. I see a lot of content creators on YouTube, ironically, talking about find me on Minds. One of the guys, I guess he was a co-founder of Minds, is on the Tim Pool Timcast IRL show. And he's always,
I didn't know that a co-founder was on the show. Okay, cool.
Adam, what's his name? Adam Krigler.
Okay.
Because he talks crypto all the time, and he's on Twitter also, and so he talks about like almost every day Dogecoin comes.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see that you have people in just not quote unquote crypto Twitter talking about apps that are based in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you're going to see more people switching over to mines in the near future.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting too that I didn't realize that a co-founder from Minds is on Timcast IRL, because I know Bill Ottman, I believe, was the CFO of Subverse when they originally did the funding for that and got that all going. I don't know what really happened to Subverse, because I do kind of follow what they're up to. But
remember when Tim was talking about Subverse, and I guess he got into a dispute with the creators of a video game called Subverse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Subverse video game is an erotic thriller. On
Yikes!
And so I don't know whatever happened to that, because he really stopped talking about it, and he talks about his timcast.com, I think is the name of the website now. So he really doesn't talk about Subverse anymore. But I remember when that whole started, and there was this whole back and forth about that.
Jeez, it's crazy how something can just come toppling down based on like a naming convention or like a logo or something so simple. Yeah. I mean, obviously we don't know everything, but yeah,
branding is very important in, well, not only just social media, but just in the world. Like Lil Nas X and his Satan shoes, almost ended up getting sued by Nike because they took Nikes and changed the color and added some other things to it. But Nike was like, it's still a Nike, right? So you have those things. Copyright is something that a lot of us don't think about, because a lot of this stuff we do ourselves. We don't take it through a marketing team. We don't take it through patents, things like that, before we put it out there. Whereas they did, because they have to. They have millions of dollars involved in these things. For example, like with the NFTs, right? One of the issues with NFTs that is starting to be talked about more and more is copyright infringement. Because you're taking a picture of something that you don't own and tokenizing it. So where is the legal ramifications to doing that? And I think that's going to become a conversation that evolves in the NFT space probably pretty quickly.
Yeah. Something that I also talked about not that long ago was, like I had a discussion at least with Hashoshi and a couple other creators, was when or what kind of regulation could possibly come in for NFTs around, like someone like, for example, Chance the Rapper's brother, Taylor Bennett, did an NFT for his song. And then you think, well, how is that going to work legally in the future for owning a percentage share of his music? Will there be something around the copyright, or will there be like regulation around, creating these and distributing all of these? And will that be a security and all these different things? And I think because the NFT space is so new, no one's even really thought about that. A lot of people also don't think about the fact that selling an NFT will still be a taxable event. So there's all these things that people haven't really like considered just because it hasn't really come up yet. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a big awakening when people are actually having to pay the taxes and all these different things kind of popping up for NFTs. Because right now NFTs is just like this heightened euphoria state where everyone's just like buying up stuff. And personally, I think it's fantastic. I love what NFTs are doing, but I'm not trying to invest on the ground floor yet, because there's so many NFTs that could also just be worth nothing. And I've seen this play out with OX planets. I just casually played the game back in the day, and then I got all these planets in the game, and though the game still has players, no one's willing to buy those NFTs from me. So like, even though they have value, because some people are buying them, if no one's buying mine, then they're basically valueless. And that's kind of something that people, I would say, miss when they're buying an NFT. It's like, it could be worth a lot, but it could also be worth nothing if no one's willing to buy your NFT. Because, you know, someone still might want a specific rarity or whatever it happens to be, but they might not want yours. So I'm just a little hesitant to be, you know, telling people to get into this. What I'm more interested for NFTs is like tokenized real estate, what Taylor Bennett was doing, more innovative use cases. Not that collectibles and art isn't innovative, but I want to see like the next level of that, like video games that you can port assets between worlds, or you can finally, you know, sell your assets from a video game that people have been doing for years and years, but just in a much more sketchy, illegitimate way where they have to like trust the person and do it through PayPal or whatever. So I'm really interested to see how these more innovative use cases come out for like mainstream video games and like CS:GO and World of Warcraft and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, if the NFT is a wholly original piece of art, I don't think you're going to have that much of an issue. If it's something that you drew yourself, it's the original creation, nobody has copyright on it, you should be fine. But for example, you have a Pikachu behind you. If I take that and it looks exactly like that, and I make an NFT, the creator of that is going to come after me because you are infringing on my copyright. The other thing, even if copyright wasn't an issue, say it wasn't an issue whatsoever, the amount of money that people are spending, not only to create, or not only to buy, but to actually create these NFTs, that needs to be dealt with too before this art form becomes. If we're ever going to break out of Beanie Baby territory, we need to deal with that. Because I'm seeing, like, I was doing an interview with his name's 3 Douglas on Twitter, and we were on Rarible, and he was showing me how to create an NFT, and at the time it was like $150 worth of Ethereum or gas fees.
Oh my geez, that's
and
crazy.
I was like, are you insane? Not to him, but to the platform. And I was like, why is it so expensive? And of course you have to factor in how gas fees work and the price of Ethereum at the time and all these other factors. So that needs to be dealt with. And hopefully the rolling out of Berlin, and I think it's Istanbul is the next.
I think London is the next one.
London is the next one. Hopefully after those roll out, that will help the gas fees go down, because I think the gas fees are going down as we speak. They were. But no, $150 to post something is insane. I mean, I guess if you're thinking that I'm going to be one of those guys that gets thousands of dollars back for this NFT, then $150 isn't that big of a deal. But if you're just playing around with NFTs to see how they work, $150 is a lot of money, you know, to be putting into something that may or may not actually get you any type of return. I mean, it's like mad speculation at that point.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is that like there's all these other solutions for NFTs. There's all these other chains and protocols. And I think for the most part, most people getting into NFTs are kind of unaware that most of them are on Ethereum, and that's kind of where a lot of the cost is. I think a lot of new people getting into the space aren't like, oh, well, we can just go and use Flow or Wax or whatever. So like, they're just kind of unaware of that differentiation, and that kind of trips people up. Also, something interesting that I forgot to mention around tax was, I believe I saw something recently that said people issuing NFTs will have to pay like a business tax, or like when you create a piece of art and you sell it, it's taxed way higher than at capital gains for just like owning that as an asset. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. So NFT issuers are going to have to pay significantly more tax as well. And that might be something that they didn't think of as well.
So do you think that maybe they'll start just using, I don't know if art law is a phrase that's accurate, but the laws that they use to govern the art industry, the art market, do you think maybe they'll interject that into NFTs?
I would assume, yeah, because I mean, it's so hard to. The problem that it always comes down to is how will like the regulators interpret it, right? Are they going to say that it's like the same as art, or is it like an online digital asset? And there's all these different complications. Yeah, I guess for me, it's just really just being concerned about the uncertainty of regulation and tax and how all that's going to affect NFTs. But I'm still super gung ho on the idea of NFTs and where this is going. So what are your thoughts on some of the different like chains out there and some of the different ways that you can create NFTs, store them, use them, transact?
Well, right now I'm doing a series on NFTs with my friend Jeremy Cox. He's a Crypto Cryptocrypto on Twitter. And we're basically going through Ghost Market and Phantasma and these other alternatives and these alternative chains to Ethereum. Phantasma, for example, is where Kevin Smith is launching his NFTs. And the price to post an NFT on that blockchain is considerably cheaper than on OpenSea and Rarible. And because you're not using ETH, you're using, I think it's Sol and KCal are the cryptos that you're using.
Okay.
Now they're ERC based too, but it's not ERC20s. And there's one more, 1175, I want to say something like that, ERC, that are where most of the major platforms are using to host and mint the NFTs. Mm-hmm. So, you have these smaller platforms like Eminem is using Nifty Gateway to do his NFT. And so I think to make the price go down more, we also need to spread out where these NFTs are being hosted. So you have your Ghost Market, Phantasma, Nifty Gateway, just spread it out. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and you should see the price go down. Competition does that. The other thing is Naomi Brockwell had an episode on her show, I want to say it was yesterday, where she was talking to someone who bought an NFT. And we also have to think about what these NFTs are being hosted on, because it's not like with Bitcoin. If I send you Bitcoin, you have the Bitcoin in your wallet, right? If you buy an NFT on one of these galleries, that NFT, just because you can see it, it's still on that gallery. So if that gallery goes down, what happens to your NFT, right? Or if the network that gallery is on goes down, what happens to your NFT? And they were talking about that. So, they were talking about decentralized servers, and like how Bitcoin and Ethereum is. If one Bitcoin node goes down, it doesn't hurt the rest of the network. But if all of the transactions are going through one place and that place goes down, network's dead. Mm-hmm. Right? So NFT creators and marketplaces need to look at the same thing. To expand just between, look at this nice picture, into how are we going to keep this? It's supposed to be perpetual. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to last forever, right? But if it's on my laptop, it's not going to.
Yeah. So I guess more education and awareness around the same thing that we always have to push with regular crypto is getting that onto your own wallet and not leaving it on the exchange or whatever platform is actually holding it, because until you've got it in your own wallet, it's anything goes, and not your keys, not your crypto really applies to pretty much anything.
Well, that's something that I would like to get more information on as far as NFTs is because, we always say not your coins, not your keys, not your coins. Does that apply with NFTs? Because if it doesn't, that should be a concern to a lot of people as to why are you spending this much money to something that you don't actually have physical control over. They say you do, but do you really?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because with a lot of these different protocols too, and like you said, if there's issues with their network or their infrastructure, maybe there is some reason to be spending more gas fees on ETH, but definitely not $140 for sure. So what are your thoughts on some of the like ETH killers? Like, do you think that we will see a lot more competition against ETH? Do you think it's more likely that gas fees will kind of solve a lot of these problems? What are your thoughts there?
I think if Ethereum can solve the high gas fees, then I don't think they have to worry about a killer, because there's so many projects running on Ethereum right now. Mm-hmm. But if they can't get the gas fees under control into a manageable size, people are going to start looking for alternatives. They just, because people aren't going to want to spend $150 for some random NFT, to make that NFT. They're going to look for the cheapest way possible, and that's where the alternatives are going to get their influx from. The other thing is, we shouldn't really, from Ethereum's standpoint, they hate that we're talking about Ethereum killers. No business wants to have competition, but for a marketplace to thrive, we need that competition. We can't rely solely on Ethereum, or is like with Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin could have stayed the way it was in 2009 when it first came out, but the developers saw that there was need for change if we're going to keep this thing something people want to be bothered with and deal with, and especially on the commerce side. So they made advancements. That's why Bitcoin is still the standard, because the developers saw there was a need and they fixed it. And the same thing with Ethereum. The issue that Bitcoin, like Ethereum has the gas fee issue, Bitcoin has the transaction speed issue. It takes a while sometimes for Bitcoin transactions to go through. That's not a slight against Bitcoin. It's just the truth. Sometimes it takes a while for this thing to go through. So you have other cryptos, like, as much as I'm probably going to catch it for this one, but Bitcoin Cash is faster than Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that it's better. That doesn't mean it has more value. It's just faster. If the developers of Bitcoin want to keep Bitcoin where it is, that eventually is going to have to get dealt with. You're going to have to find a way to make it faster. How that happens, I have no idea. I'm not a developer. But that's the one thing. ETH has high gas fees. Bitcoin has slow transaction. If they can fix those two things, they don't have anything to worry about from any of these other cryptos.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I guess the way that I look at it is, I don't, like, while that would be fantastic, I don't need Bitcoin to be more like currency, because I look at it like, if it's gold, then in the same way that it's extremely slow and costly to transact gold, it's sort of like that, but much improved upon gold, of course, because it takes 30 days for me to order the gold and get it, and all these different things.
If they give it to you.
Yeah. If it doesn't get stolen off of my porch or something.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, is, okay, if we're going to use, if we're all going to use Bitcoin as gold, then you're right. But at the same time, I can still buy regular things with Bitcoin.
You could still technically do that with gold if someone was willing to accept it.
Good luck with that.
I know.
But that's a good point. But I'm just saying is that, okay, you can't have it both ways, right? It's either peer-to-peer electronic cash or it's gold. Which one is it? Which one are we going to use this for? And then
Yeah.
we can go about our day.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that makes sense. I kind of just look at it from an adoption standpoint too. Like, do people want to wait and? But I mean, like you said, I mean, if they fix it, then maybe everyone will just go and become like a Bitcoin maxi and just like go 100% Bitcoin.
Well, I mean,
But from what I've seen, I guess I would just say that it's just easier to use Bitcoin Cash or Dash or whatever. And
right.
you always have the option to use Bitcoin. So it's not like that's not an option. Anywhere that I can spend Bitcoin Cash or Dash, I can spend Bitcoin. It's just more so, is that what I want to do? And for the same reason that I said Doge will not be a currency is because the transaction fees for Doge are like 40x, Bitcoin Cash or Dash right now. So again, it doesn't really live up to that use case. Or if I wanted to spend it on a lot of places, most places are like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash sometimes too. Most don't offer Doge or accept Doge, at least from what I've seen. Sometimes you see it, but then again, you're still going to save a lot of fees just spending something else. So
Like Newegg accepts Doge now.
really,
And
wow.
I wrote an article about that last week. And, it's interesting that you are.
Is it just Doge that they accept, or?
Well, no, they go through BitPay. So
Okay.
BitPay added Doge to their list of
Yeah.
currency.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's odd that we call this stuff cryptocurrency, but a lot of times we don't use it as currency, and then that's where you start getting your what is this thing conversation, because it was meant to be currency. It was meant to be, I want that Pikachu. Here's 10 Bitcoin for it. Let me have it. Right? Just
Mm-hmm.
like you would if you went to the store. But then we turned it into a Forex market. And Forex isn't currency. You're trading currencies, but you don't it's investing.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think the dollar is going to do better than the Great British Pound, and I'm going to trade my Great British Pounds for U.S. dollars, or I'm going to trade my U.S. dollar for yen, or I'm going to do whatever. And we turned it into that. That's why you have so many exchanges. So now it's not that, and that's where your gold analogy comes from. $50,000 for one Bitcoin is not currency level. That's store of value level. That's gold level, right? But how did it get to that point? Because of the exchanges, right? As long as it was just, I have Bitcoin, you want Bitcoin, one Bitcoin was one Bitcoin. But when you're comparing BTC to USD, now you have the $53,000 Bitcoin.
I'm not sure. It went up a lot last night, thankfully, after how bad it dipped. So that was good to see. I mean, my portfolio dipped something like 50,000 in the past like week or two, and then recovered a lot. But that's the crypto game, I guess, which is a good segue into my next and final question, which is Bitcoin going to stay bullish? And do you subscribe to the halving cycle theory and or stock to flow model? What are your thoughts on where Bitcoin is going to go this year?
Well, Bitcoin is, now that you have so many banks and institutions involved in Bitcoin, I don't think we're ever going to see like it was back in 2018, where the market just tanked, because there's too many people involved in it now who have Bitcoin staying at a high price. They have an interest in it staying at a high price, because you have, I mean, JP Morgan has Bitcoin on his books now.
Yeah.
And they told you it was rat poison. So, I mean, or was that, well, Jamie Dimon was not a fan of Bitcoin, as we all know. But JP Morgan has Bitcoin now. And Um, so I don't think you're going to see the crashes happen like that. And I mean, we went from 62,000 down to almost 49,000 in the last few days, right? But it bounced right back. It's not nearly up to 60,000 just yet, but it didn't drop. It went down and then it kind of like hit the brakes and then started going back up. That's because you have so many people involved. People just aren't dumping the stuff once it hits a certain point. I mean, you're always going to get people taking profit. I mean, what investor wouldn't? But not to the point where people are like, oh, I'm getting out of this, like you did before. I mean, they tried to blame the proposed tax hike on the crash, on the market loss. But I think that was more of a coincidence than anything else, because you and I see Bitcoin in a different way than someone on the JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, that level. That's beyond us. That's so why am I going to put my money into something that I don't think has a lasting value? Is their thinking. So that's why I don't think we have anything to worry about, because people at the top are involved now, and they're not going to just take a losing bet.
So does that mean that the crash won't be that bad? And do you think there will even be a crash because of that? And lastly, do you think that Bitcoin is still pretty bullish then for this year? Like, do you think we'll see the likes of 100K, 200K? What are your thoughts there?
Anything's possible. I don't. What was it? Have you ever? You've seen The Big Short, right?
Yeah.
And what were they talking about? The Selena Gomez segment. They were talking about the hot hand fallacy. Or something you think something will go up just because it always has gone up. Well, anyone who adheres to that is setting themselves up for a disappointment, because everything could crash. Nothing is 100%. So people who think that just because Bitcoin is at this level now that it can't go lower, I wouldn't put too much into that. I mean, like I said, I don't think we're going to see a crash like we saw back in 2018, but don't think that this is the last time you're going to see Bitcoin take a nosedive.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. Like, and what you were saying before, how we have so many institutions and now that there's such a strong support at pretty reasonable levels that we shouldn't really expect to see like below 40,000 or 30,000 ever again. At least that's my assumption. But yeah, I subscribe to the halving theory and stock to flow model. So fingers crossed, we go to like 200K plus by October or so.
Well,
at least
we keep trying to put a date on it. Just
yeah. I mean, it's only because if you look at like the stock to flow model and the way that they've looked at the halving cycle before, at least many people have broken down and looked at it like there's a specific amount of days between the previous, I think the previous low to the halving, and then from the halving to the next peak is usually the same amount of days, at least within a few days from the past 3 cycles.
Right. You're using logic to make that assumption.
Yeah.
People are just pulling it out of their ear and going, just saying some off the wall number with nothing behind it. You're using data, which is what you should be doing. But like you go on some of these, like TikTok and listen to some of these guys, and it's just like, where are you getting this?
Yeah, I don't know where the valuations for Doge to become worth $1 ever came from. Like in my video the other day, I was saying like, yeah, I mean, Elon Musk says Doge Moon, but he's not saying buy Doge, and he's not saying like he's not accepting Doge and he's not paying his rent with Doge, but there was an article how he's going to pay his rent with Bitcoin. And we all know that he's accepting Bitcoin for Tesla and building Bitcoin infrastructure and invested in Bitcoin. So I say, look at what he does, not what he says.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I have really high hopes for Bitcoin. Maybe I'm just like too far gone now to believe anything else. But the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that even if we don't, get some crazy peak this year, I still believe in it enough that in 4 years, in 8 years, whatever,
Right.
it's still going to probably be worth more than it is today. So, I have almost little to no doubt that that would be the case. So the beautiful thing is that even if I miss the peak or whatever, you wait a few years and you're set. Because I bought the last peak and then it crashed from 19,000 to 3,000, and I was thinking like, wow, I must be the worst investor of all time. And then I just waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and now it's 3x that. Right. So it's it's the long term game.
I think the patience is not really something that our generations are known for. So the idea that you could hold something and then in 10 years it'll be worth this, a lot of us have a hard time wrapping our heads around that. Yeah. But it's true. If you had Bitcoin in 2011 and you didn't do anything with it except keep it in your wallet, knowing where your wallet was, because some of you forgot.
Yeah.
And you cashed out today, you'd be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Easy. Right? But you have to have the patience to not be like, this isn't going anywhere, I'm going to get rid of it. Like some people did too. Right?
That's very true. That's very true.
Patience is something that a lot of us are going to need to work on if we expect this thing to have the payoff we all hope it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And people need the conviction. Like they need to actually understand why Bitcoin is important. Otherwise, they get that little gain and then they're just like, oh, that's it. I need to sell now. Right. I think that's kind of the way that I look at Doge. Like the reason when it falls so hard that there's no one's like, oh, because obviously Doge is going to $1 because it's so great, so I should keep it. A lot of people are like, well, like we got our 50 cents, so like, let's get out now before this is done. And I think there's very different mindsets, and maybe I'm just biased because I don't like Doge because it's too hype and it's kind of like bad press for the crypto space, I would say. But the way that I look at it is like, people look at Doge and they say, okay, well, now I'm going to get out. But people look at Bitcoin when it dips and they're like, this is a great buying opportunity. I'm sure many Doge holders think like that, but I don't think the average person in the crypto space looks at it like that. And I think they do when they look at Bitcoin. And that's kind of my interpretation.
We also have to remember that as much as we don't like people to say it, a lot of people are in this space gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not sustainable and it's not a good idea. But that's where we are now. The between Doge and NFTs, that's pretty much where they're gambling. And a lot of people are going to get wrecked because they're not as savvy as they think they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the bull market has definitely got a lot of people glossy-eyed. And I think people are going to have a rude awakening once we go bearish. And speaking of getting wrecked, before we end this off, do you have any thoughts on Bitclout?
No.
Okay, fair enough. I figured I'd ask because it's like the big craze right now. The owner has made like 200 million off of people's Bitcoin so far.
I'm gonna keep my opinion on that to myself until we start seeing if any legal issues start arising, and then we can revisit that conversation.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair. They got a cease and desist letter, but I'm curious if we see something bigger there. I'm going to drop a pretty crazy expose today or tomorrow. So
well, I remember you pointed out on Twitter CoffeeZilla his
Yeah, he
talking
did
about,
2 great videos,
yeah.
and
Well,
I've added a lot to what he originally talked about. And yeah, I think it's going to be very, very eye opening. I mean,
yeah,
if anything, the biggest thing to just, too long didn't read is it's provable that they lied about the pre-mine. They said it was 10%, it was 40%, and they're using the pre-mine to artificially inflate all the prices of the tokens on the platform.
yeah.
And it's provable because it's on the chain. So it's pretty crazy that people don't know this stuff yet, but no one's writing about it or covering it. So no one's going to know until,
Sure.
and that's why I got to put out this video, because I think people are getting scammed left and right. And if no one actually talks about it, then no one's going to know, but everyone's hesitant because we don't know if they're going to release a withdraw function tomorrow or something. But at this point, because of all the craziness, like the lie about the pre-mine, I'm going to say that even if there's a withdraw function, it's still too far gone. But allegedly, anyways,
You know, I I have a thing I like to say. First we were in Beanie Baby territory, then we were in 2017 territory. Now we're in Fire Festival territory. There's a lot of sketchy things out there. I'm not naming any names, but sometimes it's just obviously something you shouldn't be involved with. But like I said, we're gambling now, so people are just gonna have to find out the hard way.
Yeah, yeah. And the best thing people could do is avoid gambling and just invest in quality stuff with great fundamentals. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. We have no idea where Bitcoin is going to go, but it's better to, invest in something than just keeping your money and losing it all to inflation, even if it's not crypto. At least that's my take. Do you have any final thoughts before we end this off?
No, just want to say thank you again for having me on, Scott. I'm a big fan of your work, and it just keep it up, man. I think you're doing great.
I really appreciate that. And yeah, everyone, make sure to go and check out Jason Nelson as well. He's now branded under Crypto Insights Journal again on YouTube. So make sure to go and check out all of his stuff there. And your Dragon Wolf Tech on Twitter, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So go follow him there. Check out his stuff. Also, check him out on Library and Minds. I'll make sure to include all that good stuff in the description below as well. Again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Cheers.